Is shadow the toxic part of the feminine and masculine? Can it be interpreted as that versus the divine masculine or feminine?
Probably. It's usually coming more from fear. And so when I think about, that's like A Course of Miracles tells us you are either in the energy of fear or in the energy of love. And so if fear is the ego and love is spirit or the soul, yeah, I think that when we're expressing the less healthy energy and it shows up as that particular archetype, that is more of our ego taking the upper hand. And again, that's not surprising. Like, we're encouraged to, like, our culture encourages egoic engagement. It doesn't encourage soul connection. It doesn't encourage authentic spirit connection. It's so, if we're all trying to appear a certain way and like tick off these different boxes that society tells us to value, we've lost sight of who we really are and what we're really here to do. And so then we start operating out of fear because it's like, well, I just want to be accepted. I want people to see that, I've ticked these boxes. And if we, again, that's like people's fear of failure. What is failure? Is it a failure to end a relationship that's not satisfying? No. Is it a failure to, not finish a degree if it's an area of study you're not interested in? No. If we're not, if we try something, don't complete it, and don't evolve or grow, maybe that's a bit of a failure. But if we're learning as we're having these different experiences and continuing to show up like wholeheartedly and authentically, that to me is not a failure. That's growth.
Beautiful. What are the most common communication blind spots?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think one of the first mistakes that we make is assuming that everybody communicates the same way we do. And the sooner we recognize that we all have different ways of communicating. So, I can think of clients I've worked with, and if their spouse or partner is open to it, I'll ask if I can pull their chart also. And so I love doing synastry readings, which is looking at two people's charts and how they interact. But, for if I'm not coaching the other person, if I'm just working with one client, I just want to look at the other person's chart because I want to understand how they communicate. So, I might have somebody who's got like Mercury and Gemini, which is Mercury is our communication style and our mindset. And Mercury and Gemini is really curious, quick talker, quick thinker, goes through a lot of information and really wants to talk things out. And if they are partnered with somebody who has Mercury in Pisces or Mercury in Scorpio or Mercury in Cancer, those are water signs. And those people are going to be much more inwardly focused, and they are going to be, in some cases nonverbal. They need time to think things through. They're not moving through the ideas swiftly. And so they may not even respond to their partner, and their partner's like getting so angry because you're not even answering me. And it's like they can't answer you because they need time to process all of the onslaught of information that's just come from you. And so when I can help people see that and say, this is how your partner communicates and this is how you communicate. And now, now you can take things a lot less personally and know, so I have a Mercury in a fire sign. So I move through ideas really, really swiftly. My partner has Mercury in an earth sign. So he is much more careful, considered, and slow in when he's wanting to do something. Whereas I'm like, okay, let's book it. Let's do this. Look, I'm moving really quickly through things. And he's like, no, I need to do research. I need to do that. So because I know he's like that, if I'm in a hurry about something, I'm gonna give him a big runway to address it because I know he won't be where I might be impulsive and make a decision swiftly, he is going to take his time. And that's okay. So knowing that just helps me to approach matters differently with him. So that to me is just one of the fundamentals, like just recognizing not everybody thinks like me, not everybody communicates like me. And so being open and respectful to differences, and also then being able to be clear on what my needs are and speak up for them in all relationships, not just partnership.
Can this work have access to Akashic records too?
I don't know. I mean, I've had my Akashic records read, but I really don't know enough about Akashic records to really answer that. I mean, the experience of having mine read was really fascinating. And in terms of like, you know, explaining a connection I had with somebody and what their, how we'd known each other in a past life. But yeah, I don't know. That would be, you'd have to ask somebody who knows the Akashic records.
Um, the reason I asked actually is because at the beginning you said that you need permission
Hmm.
to read somebody else's, and for Akashic records, I read somewhere that somebody who's reading yours needs permission from you.
Hmm.
Why?
Well, so I can't speak for the Akashic record piece. I mean, I would assume that the permission they're getting is when you ask them to read your, like, yes, please open my Akashic records. I think that's probably the permission they're seeking. For me, I've had people reach out to say, oh, hey, I just matched with this person online and I want to pull up their birth chart to see if it's a good fit. And I'm like, yeah, I don't do that. And that's unethical. And if you find an astrologer who will do that for you, that's not ethical. So, if they're willing, so if it's somebody that you've been seeing for a while, and again, I've done tons of synastry readings for people. So that's either, sometimes I do it for parents and their children. Sometimes I do it for friends. And I also do it for partners. But then both people are on the call and we're exploring their chart, both of the people's charts, and then how their charts work together.
So it's possible that you can say whether somebody is compatible with another person through reading their chart.
Yeah, absolutely. And that being said, it's not like, listen, my partner and I have a lot of stuff that's challenging in our charts together, but we know what those things are. So I would never look at somebody's chart and be like, "Oh yeah, this is never going to work." Because that's the opportunity. Here are the areas of life where it's effortless and easy. Here are the things that are more challenging. So, let's strategize on how to work with those challenging things so that you can overcome them.
So what kind of wounds do you think show up the loudest based on the experience that you had in the charts?
I would say, I think it's that old story of I am too much or I am not enough. And both of those. But
Too much.
I'm too much, I am not enough. And it's it's interesting. There's this part of the chart called Chiron, and Chiron is an asteroid between Saturn and Uranus. And so some astrologers call Chiron the bridge between the inner planets, the planets we can see with the naked eye, and then the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which tend to be more like Neptune, Uranus and Pluto tend to tell us a lot more about sort of bigger social transpersonal issues. But they definitely have something important to say in your chart as well. So Chiron is the archetype of Chiron is the wounded healer. And Chiron in Greek mythology was a centaur who was immortal, and he was this teacher to all these so called heroes. I don't consider the Greek heroes heroes. I think they were a bunch of thugs and rapists and murderers. So, not my favorite kind of guys. So, but he was the teacher to, Jason and Hercules and Achilles and all those dudes, Perseus. And I think it was Achilles, no, not I can't remember. Hercules maybe shot him with a poison arrow, and he couldn't die because he was immortal, but he was in incredible pain. And so he worked with like all of these deities of medicine to try to heal himself, and he could not. So even though he was this incredible powerful healer, he just couldn't fix this this wound of his. And so eventually he asked Zeus to, you know, free him from this pain. And so Zeus made him a constellation. So in the chart, we talk about Chiron being the wounded healer. And you go through what's called your Chiron return in your late 40s. And my Chiron return was absolutely like devastating and also the most powerful healing experience of my life. And it was really hard, but I learned so much and it completely changed me, and in a good way. So the gift of Chiron is you you address what's the original wound. You maybe work with a mentor and do the work to heal that wound, and then you share that journey with others.
So does it happen to everybody?
Yes, it does. If you live to
And at
be,
40?
when you're late 40s, you have your Chiron return.
Oh my God.
Yeah, your 40s bring a lot of really big astrological transits, and it's very, very transformative. So when I have somebody of that age reaching out, I'm like, "Oh, here we go." So it's, society calls it midlife crisis, but any astrologer will say, no, no, that's your Saturn opposition, your Uranus opposition, your Pluto square, your Chiron return. It's those boom, 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 one after the other. And, the goal of those, like when we experience that, it completely transforms us. And to me, if we can navigate it with some help, and certainly I had a lot of help through that time, both professionally and through, family and friends support. It changed my life in a positive way, and so that helped me actually come into my real power.
So how do you spell Chiron? Is it with K?
No, it's Chiron.
Oh, okay. I had a totally different Chiron.
He's
Chiron return?
actually, it's funny because in the glyph for Chiron is the letter K, but then with a little hole, it's almost like a little key, an upside down key.
Upside down. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay, so how do one figure out the Chiron returning message?
Well,
How do they
work
find
with an astrologer. You would find, am I in my Chiron return? That's what. So you need to speak to an astrologer to find out if you're in your Chiron return. I mean, you can also use an app like Chani Nicholas's app. It's called the Chani app. She's an amazing astrologer. She has Chiron. I believe Chiron is in that app. Even though she's a traditional astrologer. And traditional astrologers typically don't talk about Chiron, but Chiron was discovered, I think, in 1977. So for the last, 50 years, it's becoming much more prominent in astrology. And again, yeah, my Chiron return was like, whew, that was a doozy. So whenever I see people in their Chiron return, I'm like, so what's happening? How's everything going? And yeah, it's a big one.
so it's basically like a tornado coming into your life and turn your life upside down and for good?
No, that's more of a Uranus transit. So it doesn't feel like that. It's actually much more subtle, but well, from my experience, it was much more subtle, but it showed, to me, what it showed was some of the fundamental rot in the way I was doing things. And so it forced me to finally address like a fundamental way that I was showing up. And then the invitation was, do you want to show up differently? Do you want, it's that evolve or repeat. Here we go. Evolve or repeat.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really powerful.
So once you choose evolution, that's for good, right? Does it come back to you again?
So you only have a Chiron return roughly every 49 years. So you would have a second one if you live to be 100. But yeah, typically you're done. Now your Chiron's still active in your chart. So you may have other times where, Chiron in the sky might be in contact with your sun or your moon, or so you might have other echoes of Chiron, but you're not going to have that return. So that's different. You're not going to have the Chiron birthday because that's what the return is. The planet has
Is
come back to the same part of your chart.
is it at for age 49 or in your 40s?
No, age 49, like 48, 49, 50. That's your Chiron return.
Okay. So I cannot read it if I'm not 49, right?
No. So
So I
you
shall
have to wait.
I
You'll
shall wait.
have to wait. You know what? For some people, it's no biggie because to me, it depends. Like, what have you done with the other transits and life experiences that have led to that part? Like, so if this was for me, there was one area of life that was unsatisfying. Other areas of life were fantastic, and Chiron return didn't affect them. So Chiron return, it brought to light the one thing that was still causing problems for me and was an area of dissatisfaction, which for me was relationships. And it forced me to finally address them. And so part of that was me taking responsibility and like understanding, okay, this is where the pattern comes from, and building the skills so that I could do things differently and show up differently in relationships.
What is an astrological transit?
So a transit is when the planet in the sky is having a conversation with a planet in your chart. So it's really the transit is the movement of the planets through the sky.
Oh, okay. Okay. And is there what okay, let me ask you this way. Um, what is your favorite astrological transit for fresh start?
For fresh start, well, every day is a fresh start. Um, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of different transits. It to me, I okay, some of the things I like to see are like Jupiter and Venus together because Jupiter and Venus are what we call the benefics. They are opening doors, they are generally helpful energy, but there's a lot more to it than that. You want to make sure they're having a good conversation. You want to make sure that they are having like that they're helping each other, that they're in signs where they're strong and comfortable. So I like that. That's a nice one. But, your birthday is a great transit because it's your solar return. The sun is back where it was when you were born. I mean, that's sort of to me like this a bit of a restart button. I like the spring equinox to me is a really big fresh start. That's when, for me, I do my intention setting for the year. I create a vision board for the year. I might do some mind mapping because when the sun enters 0 degrees of Aries, that is the beginning of the zodiac. It is very, very creative energy. So I like, any planet sort of hitting that 0 degrees Aries, which by the way, we had Neptune there on Monday for the first time in 165 years. So that's a really big deal. But anytime that's a big fresh start. I also love when the sun is in Leo, which is in, end of July until the end of August, because that's when, the sun is in its full strength, or the sun in Aries is really strong as well. And that it infuses like life force and vitality to all of us here on Earth. So those to me are some of the transits. But again, it's what you make of them. I've had like some really hard transits, but if I grew and learned through them, I can look back and say, I'm grateful for that because it changed my life and took me in a different direction.
What is the difference between being born in a lunar and solar system? Do you choose that?
Okay, so
Do people
I think you're asking me about sect, which is were you born at night or day? So again, my belief is that we choose it because we're choosing our date, time, and location of birth. That's not an astrology thing. That's my personal belief. And so if you were born when the sun is below the horizon, your chart is what we call a night chart. And in that case, um, the moon becomes the more important luminary. You may connect more with your moon sign. And Venus and Mars are the two planets that are sort of on your team working for you. And Saturn is going to cause like a little bit more problems for you. And in my experience, that's accurate. If you were born during the day when the sun was above the horizon, then Jupiter and Saturn are working for you, and Mars is going to cause more problems in your chart. And in my experience, that is accurate. So it doesn't, it not, one is not better than the other. It's neutral, but you're working. And to me, the lunar energy is a little bit more, it's more yin, it's more receptive and feminine, whereas the solar energy is more outward and it's more yang and masculine.
Um, some part of the world, the years are lunar. They are counted as lunar years versus the solar years.
Do you mean like
Does that make
the
sense?
Chin like you like the
Like
fact that the
Chinese year?
Chinese zodiac kicks off on the lunar
Mm,
year? Yeah,
yes.
I don't
Right?
practice Chinese astrology, so I don't know enough about that, but I do know that it's the Lunar New Year begins, we have it beginning on February 17th. This year it happens to on an eclipse. It's the new moon in Aquarius that it's happening. So it happens to be a solar eclipse and in the sign of Aquarius, and that's kind of an unusual signature. Um, and that kicks off the year of the fire horse, which is a very yang energy.
Fire horse.
Yeah, it's the fire horse. We're in the year of the wood snake, which is a very yin energy, and it's about shedding what doesn't serve, letting go of things that we don't want to bring forward into this new energy. And then the year of the fire horse is all about like brave, bold action, forward momentum. So it's a very different energy.